My group recently had to kick a player for a lot of reasons, but one of them was that she wanted to play an incredibly stupid character without any of the consequences. Basically, she lowered her character's intelligence to the minimum the system would allow, which isn't bad, but she also had him be clueless to basic world-building facts to the point where he didn't understand the plot hook for the game. He didn't realize he had traded his soul away in a Faustian bargain — the game is all about earning the soul back — until another player's character sat down and explained it. Other examples of his stupidity were not listening to an NPC explaining a quest and going on the mission without the rest of the party thinking he'd been invited to go out drinking instead of being sent into a monster-filled forest. He almost died. Yo, I'm here for the beer. Later, we were investigating the office of a guy we suspected of poisoning a bunch of people, and we found a random vial in the guy's desk, and this dude drank it without hesitation. He almost died. He also repeatedly destroyed evidence by accident due to mishandling it. To be clear, the player wasn't clueless. She thought she was being funny, even when we told her to just knock it off. After a point, me and other players' characters started not allowing him to help with investigations in case he hurt himself again. His player threw a fit, saying we were discriminating against him because he was autistic. The character, not the player. Both myself and the other player who banned him from helping are both actually autistic ourselves.
Hey, can we talk about your character?
Oh, why? What's up?
Yeah, look, I've had a lot of fun in the game, but I have some concerns about— seriously, you're just being ableist against my character.
Bro, I haven't even gotten to my concerns.
You just don't understand a genuine autistic character. Alright, I'm playing a character that's completely defined by the things they can't do rather than the things they can. They are completely infantilized, and I play them like a child because that's how real autistic people obviously act. And of course, he randomly becomes a genius at plot convenient times because what else do autistic people do when they need to do something? You just clearly don't understand genuine autistic representation.
Okay, well, at the very least, can you stop pretending to be a surgeon?
I am a surgeon!
She claimed that we were infantilizing him, but look, these are the result of her actions. If you want to play dangerously stupid, expect the other players to treat your character as an idiot. I know I did the whole skit about this, but man, if you're gonna play an autistic character, do so respectfully, not like this. They're not infantilizing. You are by making the character like that. Hey Crispy, this one's pretty minor, but after a little thinking, I figured it would make like a fun intro or something like that. As a bit of background, I've been playing TTRPGs for a few years now, regularly after some false starts with a group I met via another creator's Discord server. We're actually pretty consistent, despite 2/5 of us being European. Or gay, it's one of the Sorry. The rest are from North America. Now, one of the players, we'll call her Rogue, is older and somewhat scatterbrained, and she's the main focus of this tale. A few months ago, one of the Europeans had engagements that would run into our D&D time, so I offered to write up a one-shot to fill in the void. With a bit better than a month's notice, I was able to come up with a one-shot using Mage Hand Press's Dark Matter 5th extension, and people were starting to make their own characters. In other games, we were level 5 by this time this came around, so I figured we'd do it there. It would allow for a bit of a harsher combat, but that's actually irrelevant. During character creation, Rogue was being somewhat indecisive. She was interested, but not very helpful in providing what the group lacked, so she did eventually settle on a rogue to complement the nanite-wielding sorcerer or the heavy armored gun tank. Sorcerer would be like,
Nanomachine, son!
I gotta get that subclass. The biggest problem was that she required a lot of assistance. She kept asking and asking over and over about what she needed to input, where to find it, how to find it, what it would mean, what it would do. I think I explained to her no less than 4 times how to input new tool proficiencies in Roll20, since we usually use Foundry, and repeated more than once where and how to add her class features, etc. Before we finished, I ended up with a near blinding headache and just needed to take a break before putting the hammer back to steel. I knew she would require a lot of hand-holding before, as she frequently forgot things about her own character and asks with consistency how features work, though she's been told a dozen times previously. The game still ended up being fun, and I do not regret running it in the least, but I had to speak to the usual DM and compliment him on his patience. We shared a laugh, and now we're back to the usual game, running a heavily edited and truncated Curse of Strahd. Actually, we haven't had a Curse of Strahd horror story in, like, forever.
Maybe the curse is broken.
Anyway, we were running a truncated Curse of Straw adventure after a bit of a custom opening to level us up. One thing's for sure though, if I ever do that again, I'm just gonna use the old characters to save time and what little sanity I have left. Look, I'm glad that you don't hold any bitterness towards the rogue because I understand her position. Look, sometimes you just don't get it. It happens. I mean, we've all been to school. How many times does a teacher explain something, explained it countless times, everyone else gets it, you just don't. It happens. It's inevitable. And especially in something low stakes like a D&D game, it is going to happen. And it looks like Rogue is putting effort into trying to understand. It just sometimes doesn't get through the noggin. Look, patience is important as a dungeon master, especially when you're playing with new characters and especially when you're playing with new players. I'm glad that both you and your DM have some of that patience, and I'm even more glad that you're aware of your own flaws when it comes to that category. So my very first game of Dungeon Crawl Classics was a free RPG event run at my local game store. It was me, Bill, names change, protect the innocent, and a thief who only joined for that session. It's a drop-in game and me and Bill tend to be the only regulars with a few players popping in and out as time goes on. For the event, we were playing Across the Veil of Time, a straightforward module with some pretty simple puzzles and encounters for level 1 characters. Since I hadn't played before, and the Dungeon Judge, DCC's Game Master, oh god. Look, DCC is officially off my playlist just because I am not being a DJ in order to DM your game. It's not happening, I refuse that type. Since I hadn't played before, the DJ wanted me to get the funnel dungeon experience, so I got to play a squad of level 0 characters. The session as a whole went great. Our DJ was very supportive and even rewarded me for using clever role-playing and item use, like using a crowbar to jam some gears in the clock tower at the end so we could have an easy climb. The final battle also went great, as Bill made great use of the command spell to get the boss to solve the puzzle for us. My surviving level 0 character actually stole the boss's scythe with an insanely lucky strength check, and our rogue managed to rescue the NPC. However, we almost had a TPK at the very start. If you haven't played the module, it starts with the player coming to a haberdashery that has a note on it that was written by one of the other players. Only thing is, the player hadn't written it. In actuality, if you try to open the door, you get sent to caveman times and the note is no longer there. If you keep messing with the door, you keep going further back into the primordial soup era, time travel style. The module does not actually include what happens if you keep messing with it because, 1, you just die if you keep on going further, and 2, the solution is very obvious. The person who allegedly wrote the note just needs to actually write the note and place on the door. Honestly, that's not where my brain was going. Maybe I'm just stupid, but I would have died in that puzzle. The DJ picked at random, and Bill was the character who wrote the note. We mess with the door and get sent back in time and get surrounded by cavemen. So Bill opens the door again, that gets us out, which does get us out of the encounter. So we wind up to the primordial days, and me and Rogue have figured out the puzzle, but Bill wants to explore, or rather, he wants us to explore while he examines the store around him. Me and the rogue are puzzled, but we stray out a bit and ask him if he's going to write the note, and Bill just says, "I'm not sure that's the right thing to do." We end up getting into a fight with a primordial monster, manage to trick it into touching the door instead of us, and it's clear there is nothing for us to do there. Since the DJ thinks Bill is just not understanding the solution, he asks for an intelligence check and makes it pretty easy, like DC of 8. We all pass it, and he says, "Your characters believe the note you saw before will recreate and place on the door. It might get you out of this predicament."
This puzzle, this dastardly enigma, it vexes me greatly, but worry not, my friend. I will discern its truth. Dude, I'm like 99% sure the solution is for you to just write the... No! That is a lie. Don't fall for... Who are you? Oh, hey, yeah, I'm the dungeon master. Like, just of this dungeon, or of, like, dungeons in general? Basically, I'm, like, the god of this entire world. Like, I made that puzzle, and I'm telling you that the easy solution of just writing the note is the actual solution, okay? Like, we're all begging you. We all just want you to move on. But, like, are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure what's wrong with you.
Bill still doesn't write the note and says he thinks we should try the door again and see what happens. My group of level zeros and our rogue get in front of the door and both in character and out of character beg him, just write the note. See if it works, as we don't think there's any further we can go back. He finally relents, saying he believes it's a trap and asks that one of us be the ones to open the door. We do, and finally progress to the shop. The rest of the adventure went smoothly. I even had a goof moment where I thought the solution to a situation was needing to wear a fancy suit, when really it was just a portal I needed to walk through, and I could have been wearing anything. The only other annoying moment with Bill was when he angered his deity and needed to pray for 2 hours, and demanded that my group and the rogue scout ahead instead of waiting, which led to all but one of my group dying. So, shout out to the DJ! I'm not gonna get over that. Shout out to our TJ who let my level zeros get a fantastic death scene, sacrificing themselves to protect the final level zero who was the youngest and became my longest running character. So me and Bill kept playing after that, and honestly he's a fun guy most of the time, but I noticed he always opened with the spell Holy Sanctuary. Essentially makes enemies not target you if you succeed. Higher success can create a safe zone for allies too, but you have to roll really well for that. Now at first I didn't mind, as I figured, hey, he's our cleric, he needs to be protected, and I rolled well on my warrior's HP dice, so I could take a hit or two even at level 1. Our DJ even let us have level 0 henchmen, since the module he wanted us to run called for more players. So we effectively had 4 characters, and honestly I love this approach, and my henchman even became my favorite character so far, an angry old grandpa who learned some spells out of a book he ordered by mail and thinks the various evil wizards and gods he met were simple con men. Bill seemed to like the approach too, as he was far more likely to do roleplay or take risks with his henchmen. But every fight, I'm like, okay, Bill, what are you doing? I cast Holy Sanctuary, and he would cast it until it worked. Lay on hands, blessings, turn undead. We'd have to remind or beg him to try using just anything else. It's like,
As a cleric, my god has put me on a divine path to protect myself. Eat shit, peasants.
still, we go through encounters, and several months later, we got our characters to level 2 while going through Shadow of the Beakmen, which was a really fun adventure, but very combat heavy, so my wizard kept getting knocked out, and our new player for the session wound up doing the majority of the fighting, while I was just begging for heals.
I need healing.
It got to the point our DJ let me bring another character to back me up. After a pretty brutal fight, we take stock and ask how many hit points everyone has. When it gets to Bill, he says, "Oh, only 1." To which I respond, "How? You haven't gotten hit by anything." "Oh, well, I've only ever had 1 health." For months, he had been playing with the same health as his character had when he was level 0. He had seen us roll before sessions to get our new hit point totals when we leveled up. He had asked us for help looking for what he got when he was level 2, but he just never rolled his new hit points. I remember me, our DJ, and the new player all just sat in stunned silence as we took that info in. We let him roll his new health, and he got perfect rolls, getting him to 13 health, and honestly, I think it's kind of impressive he lasted this long. Man was literally untouchable the whole campaign up until that point. Hadn't been dying. I mean, he wasn't doing any of that badass fighting. He was hiding in his bubble, but give him some credit. The session continued, and Bill did shake things up a bit. He had a great roleplay moment when a demon made an offer for him. He crit on a command spell roll against getting 2 mini-bosses to fight it out, which did make sense for the 2 bosses to do anyway. And the new player, who had to leave early, even gave him a +3 weapon. So all the problems were solved, right? Well, we failed a stealth check and wake up a dozen beakmen and have to fight on the stairwell. What the hell is a beakman? Okay, yeah, fighting a dozen of this guy seems awful. We have to fight these beakmen on the stairwell. My characters, the new player's character, and Bill's henchmen are all in the front. Bill says I cast Holy Sanctuary. The enemies had no way to target him, but he cast Holy Sanctuary anyway. We get to the final battle and he cast it again, but at least it made sense as the enemies in it could target him. Next session comes and we have a couple returning players joining us. Bill plays cautiously, but not in a bad way. The players want to explore the setting Shutter Mountains a bit before we can do a new module, so they take some risks Bill didn't want to take, so he stayed in the rear and retreated when we got into fights again. But he didn't put anyone at risk. He even had another great roleplay moment where he told a demon off and his god rewarded him. So we start the new module, The Corpse That Love Built, and with the experienced players plus our leveled up characters, we are now a force to be reckoned with. We get to the first encounter, 3 golems, we take out the first one with a couple good old rolls, Bill's turn comes up, and Bill is nowhere near melee range of the golems, though again, he has a +3 magic weapon if he does want to get in the fight, and instead he casts Holy Sanctuary. I do want to clarify, Bill is honestly a good guy, and when he's not playing Cleric in combat, he does stretch his legs quite a bit while the role-playing part of the game isn't his favorite thing to do. He likes the exploration aspect the most. He can do some good roleplay, but come combat, he only knows how to cast Holy Sanctuary until he eventually sometimes casts Command. I do think this is something worth talking about. It's not the most serious problem at all, of course. However, I had a problem in my D&D 5th edition game where a player would basically only use spell slots to spam shield as a reaction and use cantrips for everything else. This artificer wasn't using his spell slots for anything that would help the players in any way, and that actually put the team at major risks, because having a player that just 24/7 spam shield is just not helpful in any way. I regret not saying something about that because it forced me to balance around this player basically barely participating in the combat, and that was stupid. I shouldn't have had to do that as a game master. I should have been able to balance normally, and I would have been able to if I had just said something. This should not be a confrontation by any means, but just bring it up sometime. Especially if it starts making combat more difficult for you and the party, especially as the DM starts to make combat more difficult to facilitate higher level play. So this starts when myself, the sorcerer, and my boyfriend, the blood hunter, decided to search for a campaign. It took some time, and we stumbled across a DM who was running one-shots looking for a group. It seemed okay at first. We got into the one-shot with different characters, and it went well. We beat the dragon, we finished the story. Because this went so well, we asked the DM if we could join his other campaign, as space had been made. Now, here's the first campaign. The DM agreed to let us in the main group, and it seemed to go well at first. Some weird comments from some other players, but that seemed to stop after only a few sessions. This is where we met our fighter, who we'll call Jack, and our problem player, who we will call Problem Player. The campaign hit it off with fighting some monsters after talking to some NPCs. Our fighter had a bit of a main character complex, but got over it quickly, whilst our bard was quite quiet. Frickin' unforeseen in a bard. You all better shut up. We must study this endangered species at once. Soon after starting, a player who we hadn't met left the campaign, opening up space for the DM's girlfriend. She went wizard, but we'll just call her Ellie. As the campaign went on, we found out that the problem player had numerous amounts of magical items, while the rest of the party had just none, which was a bit of a red flag, but we didn't notice until we got quite a bit into the campaign. Whilst not being attuned to them, he also was using magical items that took attunement, and had a wand that could cast 3rd level spells, while we were just a level 3 party, making him stronger than most of us. And where was he getting these? Was the DM giving them under the table? Problem player throughout the end of the campaign was taking over the group a bit, using roles to persuade other characters since he was a bard, and use spells like Ominous Winds and Silvery Barbs to remove all the fun for the DM. We also found out he had used both modifiers in his racial ability scores instead of just one on charisma. By the end of the campaign, we delved into a volcano and fought our way through a dungeon. My boyfriend and myself had to go as it was late at night, and we had told them this before, but the DM wanted to finish it and carry on, so they finished the campaign without us, ending 6 hours later at 3 a.m. on a work night. Yeah, sorry, can't check into my NICU nursing job. There are dragons that need killing! Oh, I'm fired. Interlude. During the time between the campaigns, we found out we had enjoyed our characters, so my boyfriend and I swapped characters to go sorcerer and druid respectively, and our fighter changed to a paladin. We discovered that Problem Player owned every book on D&D Beyond, read through them to learn about monsters and magic items, looking for all the most powerful stuff. He was also sending messages to me about what powerful feats I could use and how I could make my character do more damage, which I just wasn't really interested in. We further discovered that Ellie and Problem Player would often metagame to gain an advantage where they could. Sorry, can we loop back to the fact that he owns every book on D&D Beyond? How much would that cost?
Honey, our children are starving. We need just a pittance of coin. Some money, basically, so I can, pay rent. And for our food, you know? Sorry, babe. I can't pay rent today. I am paying for all the D&D books on D&D Beyond instead, so that I may maximize the damage that I can do with my builds. I'm divorcing you. No, wait, hold on!
Second campaign. Going to the second campaign, we discovered the Problem Player had kept all of his magic items, whilst people who changed characters, lost all of them, and did not have the chance to have any magical items. Ellie, the girlfriend, was also not there for the first session, but was thinking of changing characters, and we started relatively okay. I was playing a Shadowkai sorcerer who hid that she was a Shadowkai, and my boyfriend was now a Drow druid. This is where we found out the Problem Player was incredibly racist towards elves of a darker skin, for no discernible reason whatsoever. What the fuck? It was specifically Drow, but it extended to anything that looked like a Drow. It was just as bad for them too. We later found out this was because a Drow had stolen from him. Stolen what? Like a piece of bread?
You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
Seems like an overreaction, but that's just me. Going into the first session, his character was rude and aggressive towards my boyfriend's character for being a Drow, and he repeatedly forgot that his character didn't know that mine was a Shadowkai, once being overly rude and aggressive, thinking I'm a Drow, commenting on the skin tone. At one point saying, "You are very nice for a dark lady," forgetting that my Shadowkai didn't even have dark skin until we were actually in darkness. We went to a few taverns at first to discover where someone was killed. The first tavern we went to, Problem Player's character almost decided to fight my boyfriend before my boyfriend put the argument forward that he wasn't a Lothsworn Drow, he worshipped Sylvanas. This calmed Problem Player for a while. We then went to another tavern where we found out that an innkeep kept cutting out people's tongues, or at least knew someone who was doing that. To get information, my boyfriend went to ask the innkeep who was doing this. This led to an arm wrestle where the DM introduced some fun mechanics to get information out of this innkeeper. The innkeeper pulled out some gauntlets that seemed magical to my boyfriend and to Jack. The Problem Player wanted to steal them, which made no sense for his character since he hated Drow for stealing. Well, baby, that's racism for you. Right for me, not for thee. Or, I guess in this case, crime for me and not for thee, but you get the point. After a round of this knife game, the innkeep was injured, so my boyfriend healed him, to which Problem Player basically shouted that my boyfriend couldn't heal the innkeep because Problem Player wanted to steal the gauntlets, even though we had just all decided at this point to just be friendly to the guy. After this, the party continues, and the next session we went to a quest to clear the mines. Before going in, we met Ellie, the girlfriend's new character, which was another damage-dealing wizard who can cast mage armor on herself and then hide in fights. Going through the mines, she decided to not use any utility spells, leading to lots of damage for her. The Problem Player also decided to randomly attack some ooze on the floor without any indication from the DM that it was a monster, using metagaming just to know the ooze existed. Problem Player then attacked a lava child without being provoked, whilst the party clearly was trying to talk to them. Going through the caves, Problem Player kept trying to take over and decide what the party were going to do. All before the guy changed characters the next session. This new character was a monk fighter Arena who could do around 40 damage at level 4 in one turn without crits. Adding on to this, he gave the character a very high-pitched, annoying voice. So he gave her my voice. Throughout the rest of the campaign, Problem Player and Ellie were constantly rolling for checks when their characters weren't even there, interrupting others, moving characters to gain vision for measuring when it wasn't their turn in combat, and whilst Problem Player was taking over in fights, Ellie was never near the fight, hardly helping with no utility spells, using only Ray of Frost, magic missiles, and hurting allies with Cloud of Daggers. This persisted for a while, becoming increasingly annoying until we decided to leave. Sending our DM a message saying we were leaving, we found out that Jack was also annoyed by the Problem Player during the sessions and also wanted to leave. The DM asked us if we would stay if he kicked out Problem Player, which we agreed to. A few days later, my boyfriend asked him what was happening, and he said that he wasn't kicking Problem Player out. Instead, he was gonna rebuild the party with Problem Player in it. We assumed it was because Problem Player has the books, but we don't know. Yes. My DM doesn't really love me. He was just using me for my books. Okay, but seriously, this is a great example of clashing playstyles and a DM who doesn't really seem to think that that causes a problem when it, in fact, often does. His GF's min-maxing does not necessarily make her a problem player, but it could be problematic if the other players aren't interested in playing catch-up. You have to make sure that your group are all on the same page, and you can't force them to be on the same page, despite what some YouTube commenters might think. Like, you can't just tell someone, oh, get over it, you'll be fine. It's just not gonna work like that. Sometimes groups aren't destined to work out, especially if the bard's min-maxing extends past that to possible cheating territory, which is just not great. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy this past Wednesday's episode of a new series where we cover problematic D&D influencers. We covered Gabe Hicks, a serial cheater, linked in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can go down the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment painful min-maxing to let me know at the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.